Yes, y'all. Welcome in live to episode 3 of Podomania 3 on this WrestleMania weekend. Recap and reaction show to what we have seen over the past couple days. Getting everybody's food for thought. But first off, how's everybody feeling today? We good? Everybody living life? Great?
Yeah.
I'm good. How you doing, Kenny?
Not bad. You know what I mean? Getting ready for night 2. Obviously, it's been like a really long week, like wrestling wise, for like fans and stuff like that. When Mania week comes, it feels like you get so many shows packed into one week, where like you don't know what you want to see, and you, like pick and choose. But it's been alright so far.
Yeah. Shout out. Thanks for coming on and joining us. I'm glad you are on based off of the Twitter reaction that I saw last night, because I bet you there's some dissenting opinions with the other 3 co-hosts of mine versus the way you felt about night 1 of WrestleMania. Jason may be disqualified from speaking about it. It looks like he is still sleeping, like he did through most of the show last night. So
I went back and won, so I have a fair opinion.
No, this guy.
So you still fall asleep again?
No.
So yeah. But no, well, let's get into night 1. We'll work our way backwards. We'll go night 1. Touch on NXT, ROH. If you watch the New Japan and Impact show on Thursday, whatever, and everything else in between, because Lord knows there's more than enough wrestling to go around. I will say this: like, I woke up this morning, I looked in the mirror, and the bags under my eyes are a little heavy, a little lost for weary right now, but I got some Celsius in the house, so I'll drink one of those around 6 to get me through till midnight, and then get ready to go do work tomorrow, actual job. But overall, night 1, thumbs up, thumbs down, in the middle, real quick. Give me a show of hands. What you got? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Kenny's is. I'm surprised Kenny's hand is in the screen. I thought it would have shot up out of view. How? Overall, the buzz. I mean, I saw nothing but this was the greatest WrestleMania night that I've witnessed and watched in a really long time. Was the overall reaction. And initially, like right out the gate, I was looking at it before I went to bed last night, just trying to see what the initial fan reaction was. Like, and Kenny, I even replied to you with the, you know what I mean? Like,
I told it different. I was just like, oh boy, this is gonna be. We'll get into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I did, like Jason, I didn't go back and rewatch the entire night 1, but I did some recalibrating this morning. Read some write-ups and reactions to various sites and blogs out there, and then went back and rewatched, the main event, as well as Rhea and Charlotte, just to kind of go back through again, because I don't know how Jens feel, and I brought this up while we were watching it live yesterday with the fellas. Kenny, you can chime in on this real quick, and then we'll get into reactions. But off of the injury to Dante Martin, in the ROH show and everything else, and just the amount of high-risk maneuvers, like anytime somebody goes to a top rope now, my anxiety is through the roof. Mm-hmm. Like, I am so nervous that something is going to go bad. And there were multiple spots in that Rhea and Charlotte match where I was taken out of the moment of the match because I was worried about the safety of the performers.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you feel about that in today's pro wrestling, but that match in particular, I made sure I went back and rewatched, because live last night, I couldn't do it live last night. Like, they took me out from an anxiety standpoint of worrying about one of them 2 getting injured.
But you know what? Like, overall, like this weekend, I mean, well, the last couple of days, like if you look at certain matches, if you look at the women's NXT championship match, those are a lot of like cringeworthy, like I see
How Stratton did not kill herself.
Yeah, like I was closing my eyes type of thing. Like, oh my God, like please let this person be okay, because like last thing you need is for somebody to be like knocked out in the middle of the ring or on the outside. Rhea and Charlotte was the same way too, where there was like a whole bunch of spots where like you kind of was like, did she hit her head for real? Or and then you kind of see her nose at one point, you see Flair's nose, and you're like, oh shit, like, you know, obviously ROH, same thing. They had, you know, some spots and, you know, more spots on top of that with Dante Martin and everything. And then like the men's tag match was like the same way too. So I mean, it's a part of wrestling. You know what I mean? When you get in a moment, things happen. But let's see.
Is it more of an age thing though? Like I realize, you know, because you know the original TLC matches and ECW spots back in the day. You know, Mike Awesome throwing Tanaka out of the ring, clearing a table to where he smacks his head on the concrete under a guardrail. Like I didn't find myself watching those and being like taken out of the performance because of worrying about a wrestler's safety. But and like I said, I don't want to be like the old guy, get off my lawn and say, don't go to the top turnbuckle, because it's just how pro wrestling is nowadays. But at the same time, from a consumer standpoint, I can't be the only person that feels that way when somebody is about to do a spot. Because I've seen it happen time and time again.
When you were younger, you feel you could take that bump.
Yeah.
Now it's like you catch a cramp getting up.
Well, we see you throw your back out, you know, tying your shoes. So yeah, we get your pain.
It could be a little bit too of, you know, we learn more on stuff.
Yeah.
Like we know more about CTE and things like that on some things. So that could be part of it too. You know, just know like it does like that doesn't bother me whenever they do the spots. Like I still enjoy spot wrestling, but like I cringe whenever I see chair shots. So it's like
yes,
yeah.
Like if you go back and you watch like Foley versus The Rock quit match. Now when we watched that match, we were really into it, right?
Yeah.
Go back and watch that match now and know and the things that you know about that match, and you're like, why? Like I remember I met Mick Foley for the first time, like when I met him, you know, as an adult, and you know, I told him, you know, thank you for like, you know, putting your body on the line and stuff like that for us, you know, to entertain us. But I said, what were you thinking when you fought The Rock and you just let him hit you with a chair like multiple times? It wasn't even like in the face with a chair. And he was just like, it's all a part of the entertainment. I said, nah, I'm good. No way in the world.
We brought the same thing up last night.
Yeah, Jay, would you say that you turned on, that you shut off after 3 of them?
It was like 1 minute and 42 seconds of the worst chair shots in WWE. And I made it one time the first time around. I was like, let me sit back through. I made it 3 chair shots. I was like, I'm out. I can't.
Do it. The uncomfortable aspect of it for sure. And Chris, I agree with you. It does tend to go along with the older we get, the more we know with stuff. But I just feel like, go ahead, Jay.
It also depends on the wrestler.
Yeah.
Like anytime Lita goes up, I'm cringing regardless.
Shotzi.
Shotzi. Anytime Seth does something off the top rope, I'm cringing.
Even Becky.
You figure Rhea just had concussions and issues. That DDT she took looked vicious.
Pile drivers, I'm cool with tie up unless like on Ring of Honor, like in the tag match, like they did it on the stage, but you could see how well they were protected. So it's like I'm cool with that. But like whenever you see like the dude like head actually hit the mat, that's whenever it messes with me too.
Well, since we just, I didn't mean to lead off with that, but I just going back through everything this morning again, like it really like made me kind of think and stuck out to me. But since we started talking about Charlotte and Rhea and their match, did they make the right call with what they put on in the main event?
Yes.
Revisionist history, hindsight being 2020, between those 2 matches, what you saw, did they make the right call with having the tag match as the main event compared to the women's match?
Yes.
It could have went either way with me.
I mean,
Because I feel like Rhea would have been Rhea could have had that moment. But I'm not mad that they put the tag on last.
I mean, I know we joke with Dave all the time about like storytelling and storyline and stuff like that, but it's Hollywood. You're basically telling a story, and this is one part of a big story, regardless if Dane and Kevin Owens are not a part of the big main event for Roman and Cody. They play a part in everything. So you need to like get to that point in order to get to the end. You know what I mean? Like, because when you look at a full movie, if some of the main characters are not close to the end, you kind of say to yourself like, well, what happens to these people? Is there going to be two? Like,
good analogy.
You know?
Yeah, and I saw, and to double up on that storyline point, Sammy in the press conference afterwards said something along the lines of the Bloodline storyline is to WWE what the Sopranos was to HBO and television. Like, and when he said that, one, it's like, okay, I knew Sammy's different. I love listening to Sammy interviews. His mind works. His mind in pro wrestling is just one of those minds where if I could sit down and have a 4-hour conversation, I don't think I would be bored.
Right.
But putting it into those aspects, then it made me even validate the point even more for me. Like, yeah, this absolutely should have been the main event, because when you look at it from that aspect of it, he's 100% correct. Like, this storyline has been the best thing WWE has done in a decade and a half. And to not put that in the main event spot, I think would have been a mistake that they would have regretted looking back down the line. And like you said, Kenny, it leads into night 2. All right, we saw one domino fall. Is the other one going to fall? Are we actually going to get the fracture, the crumble, the breakdown of the Roman Empire with Roman losing his title at the end of night 2? So I'm not mad at that at all. I thought that was my favorite match of the night. Just for all the intricacies that went into it from a story aspect. And they continued to weave it throughout the entire match. And I thought it was very fitting that it came down to Sammy and Jay. And
it had to.
You can feel the hesitation in Sammy delivering like those last couple Helluva kicks before the pinfall. It hurt him to do that to Jay. You could feel that. And it just made it that much better.
You could tell he enjoyed that last one.
And the crowd loved it. And that's exactly what you want. Like you go to the movies and you watch like a Marvel movie and they get to close to the end part and you're like, yes, this is fucking victory. That's how everybody was last night. Everybody got up out of their chairs. Everybody cheered. Every single time Sammy was either getting his ass whipped or he was freaking kicking ass, they were going back and forth. There was so much emotion through that whole entire match that WWE knocked it out of the park when it came to the main event.
So you brought up the crowd, and I feel like the fan experience live there last night was a completely different experience than what we got on TV. People there were absolutely losing their minds, from videos to reactions. Even some of the older wrestlers that were there live were tweeting people at home watching it who were complaining about the crowd being dead and everything else. And they're like, no, you guys don't understand. This place is going absolutely bananas. Like, it is crazy in here right now. And that's my only problem with the big stadium shows. If you're the viewer at home, you lose that aspect of the sound. So you can't really get a gauge for how people are reacting. And that can hurt certain performers in certain matches. I think Rhea and Charlotte, Sammy and KO, Ray and Dom, those matches were excluded from that. Like, they were going to be what they were just based off of the stories being told and the competitors in the ring and Rhea and Charlotte's aspect, because the story may not have been the greatest going into it. But that show last night definitely from a viewership at home aspect, kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna knock this down because the crowd don't seem that live.
Right.
When in actuality, it was the complete opposite. The crowd was explosive all night from everything that I got off of seeing people that were in the arena or in the stadium last night.
I remember when we were talking about that, but at that moment, I could see with my eyes people were sitting down. So all the screaming and everything, you could probably lose. But when I see people sit down on TV, you're not live to me.
And I felt too with the commentary team, like the commentary team was so loud, like it was like echoing when we were watching it. I felt like that was maybe even drowning out the crowd too.
But I did see what you call it. I did see a lot of the security, like telling
people to sit down.
Yeah, because there were times where people were up, and you would see the guy, like I used to see like the guy on the left hand side. If you go back, like a lot of the big matches, he was just like, he came up to like one person was like sit down, because he was like, even my wife saw it, and it was just like, yeah, they're waving people to sit down.
Like you could tell in the NXT that they were like, I mean, every match was damn near on fire, but the crowd was sitting there and, just watching it and enjoying it. But it's like, I think they give them like maybe like the last couple minutes if they know it's the close of the match to stand up. Any other time it's just like, sit down and enjoy the show.
Yeah,
and that's the difference between WWE and AEW from a crowd fan perspective.
I think they're doing it a little bit too.
WWE wants you to sit there like you're at a Broadway play, and then you stand up at the end to give your ovation. AEW, and it may be, I'm going to the AEW show here in a couple weeks in Pittsburgh, so I'll let you know whenever I'm there what the vibe is after being there for the, this is what the third or fourth time they've come. I've been to every one to see if it's changed. But AEW up until this point was like a Kiss concert or a rock concert, where like you're up the entire time, you're singing along, you're doing, nobody's sitting. Your feet hurt after being up all night. So I hate that they've gotten to that point, but I mean, I don't know which way is right or wrong.
Sit your ass down.
Yeah, as much money as you spend for these shows, the last thing you want to do is like, even remember, because WWE, like I always say this, I was like, WWE is more family oriented than say AEW. You know what I mean? And I'm not the only one who said it. There's been plenty of people, even when AEW started inviting a lot of celebrities to come to their shows. And once like one comedian was just like, yeah, something happened, and I had to like tell my kids like to turn away because I didn't know what to tell them about the show. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, you definitely wouldn't see that in WWE type of thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, you spend all this money. You really want to have somebody like me who's 6'4", standing up the whole entire time and say you're you're 5'10", and now you're like, sir, can you? Nah, get a better seat, bro.
We were complaining about the prime guy.
Yeah.
Standing in the corner.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's different. Like that's a mascot ringside for a match that, like, yo, if I'm paying $10,000 for that corner seat, front row, and you got this blue raspberry prime bottle in front of me, I'm hot. Like, I'm livid.
I yelled at cameramen to move out of the way at shows because I'm like, listen, if I spend all this money to sit ringside, move. Like,
back in the Attitude Era, I whenever I would get my tickets, I'd be like 4 rows back behind like JR, and it's like I'm in the 4th row, and the people in like the 1st and 2nd row would be standing up the whole time. It's like, you're in the 1st and 2nd row, like you don't need to stand up. Yeah, like sit down. Like
if you're front row, you should not be standing. I'm sorry.
At the end, like entrance and exit, cool.
And then, but that's what starts. You don't want to stand, but you got to stand just to see.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. So for you, what was your match of the night last night out of what we saw put on in the ring, in the spectacle that was WrestleMania?
Me? I don't know.
Go around, whoever wants to start. It don't matter.
Go again.
I have to say, not the Usos tag match, but the fatal 4-way tag match. Not for nothing. That was, for me, was match of the night. For me,
I saw a lot of that.
I really enjoyed that because at first I was just like, here we go, like this is just a fucking filler match. I'm gonna go get something to eat, you know what I mean? And then I found myself stuck there, and I did not want to move.
See, Chris, I brought that up to you on the show yesterday.
Yeah.
Whenever we were doing our predictions, because you called it your bathroom break, and I said, "Don't.
Mhm.
You're doing a disservice to that match.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a bathroom break.
Yeah.
It's going to be quick, fast, furious, spot after spot, and something's going to happen that you're going to go, holy shit!" And it was freaking Ricochet hitting the pause button in midair on a shooting star press off the top turnbuckle, where I thought he was going to sail into the commentator's table, and somehow
he just landed.
He's not human. He paused himself in midair and dropped straight down.
Like he had his hand hit the table.
Mm-hmm.
His face was right in front of his hand. And I was like, you're so fucking lucky.
Yeah.
So,
and he just fell into them too. Like he didn't like hit them. He just like catch me.
And even Titus had you enthralled in the match.
And that was the best.
Titus was the best commentator all night.
Absolutely.
He's like old sweaty Otis. The match he just started. He out here soaking wet.
He took that shirt off and he got on the top turnbuckle, and I was just like, "Yo, your man is really sweating. Like, you haven't even done much."
Honestly,
Great
that match,
swamp butt.
like, and I did yesterday. I called it the bathroom break match, but that was probably the most fun match of night one.
Yep.
Like, I enjoyed it. It was on the card. It was probably my third favorite match of the night.
Yeah. And a lot of reactions were with you, Kenny. People were saying that was their favorite match of the night. Which, hey, kudos to them. You guys go on that early in the show, that last 4 hours, and by the time everything wraps up, people are saying that was their favorite match of the night. Kudos to all 8 of those guys that were involved in that match.
Let's see if the women can deliver it tonight too.
I love a good women's match, but I don't think so. Look at the participants you have in this match. Like, unless Ronda Rousey is going to give you a 5-star performance, we have not
expecting that.
A very long time. It is not going to happen.
Donald, what you got? Match of the night in your eyes for you?
I liked everything, but probably except for the McAfee and Mystic. I mean, but I have to go with I'll probably go with Seth and shockingly Seth and Logan Paul. For some reason, I really enjoyed that match. From their storytelling, the KIS stuff was dumb, but I mean it worked. It worked with their match.
Anybody 15 or old, anybody I would say 15 and younger absolutely love the KSI spot.
Yeah. My kids loved it because it was like
I didn't know who the dude was. I thought he was R-Truth when he took the mask off.
I did too. I was like, Truth is back.
I was like, Truth is like, is that Truth?
He's with Logan Paul.
Yep. And then my son was just like, "Oh, that's what game," and I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess he's cool." With this guy. It was like, yeah, they're like best friends. It was like, okay, that's what's up.
Yeah. But Logan, again, he surprised me. Again, he's not like a one-off, celebrity person coming in and that stuff. What he did, 40s matches already?
Yeah.
So I call him like legit celebrity wrestler. Hey, kudos to him.
So before I want to just touch on the McAfee Miz match spot before we get Jason and Chris's pick for match of the night. I feel like it was done and it was put there to give you the relief and to get you back down to 0 before the main event. You couldn't have gone from that Rhea and Charlotte match and straight into the Bloodline video package entrances match go.
You didn't go straight into it. You had 10 minutes of commercials.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, we can get into the whole
sponsored by
bell to bell time and the amount of breaks that were this WrestleMania, but I understand why they did it, and to me it made sense from that aspect. Pat, again, it's one of those things where live I really did. I'm like, oh, is Pat not getting a reaction? Like listening TV wise, but people throwing up clips and everything else, like Pat is still just as over as he was whenever he was commentating full time for the year plus before he stepped away. And
Michael Cole popped for everybody. So
Oh yeah.
and it was it was perfect. It did its job as far as placement and purpose. And with that being said, I can't knock it because it did its job. And I'm a huge Pat guy. So
for me, everything served the purpose, even the Pat and Miz thing, except for Cena and Theory. I went back and rewatched everything, and every match was good, served the purpose, entertaining. But I'm gonna put Rhea and Charlotte as my match of the night.
What's wrong with that? I was disappointed in the Cena Theory too, because I felt like kicking off the night,
Right.
it didn't draw me in the way I was hoping it was going to.
was that because Theory won, or was it because the way Theory won?
No, I was expecting a Theory to win, so
I was thinking the way.
I think Cena was just happy just to be out in the wrestling ring again.
maybe.
I mean, he was smiling the whole time.
But
You know, he has to be protected too, so that could have been
Yeah.
part of the reason. So
Mhm.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they went above and beyond to protect him the way they protected him during that match yesterday. Like, I'm not saying he gotta get pinned clean in the ring, but they gave. I mean, he bit him twice. He did a ref bump, then a low blow. Like, how much more protection you gonna give the guy? He's freaking John Cena. He's bulletproof at this point. You
listen,
don't need all that.
when
yeah, but look,
the whole Make-A-Wish thing in the beginning, and he did a Make-A-Wish before going into the ring, I was like, he's gonna win. I was surprised when he lost, because I was just like, did he just do a Make-A-Wish
No.
before going into the ring? And my wife was just like, yeah, and I was just like, that's fucking cool. Like,
WWE don't said bleep them kids. They don't care. He's not winning.
which I would have screenshotted the photo and just sent it to you since you said that. Somebody actually posted that. There was a picture of Austin Theory, and next to it was like a fuck them kids. And I was like, yo,
they got their moment. That's all they needed.
Yeah. But then you pulled the same spot last night on Stand and Deliver.
Yeah, it's the NXT literally had almost the same exact finish down to a T. So that kind of hurt it too, because I just watched that 3 hours before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, Chris, you match of the night?
I gotta go with the main event. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Usos. It did what it was supposed to do for me. I was excited for the match. It was in the spot it was supposed to be. I don't have any complaints on that whatsoever. You know, after that, I'm gonna go to Charlotte and Rhea, and I think someone when Steve might even be new, but it could have been someone else there. Said, you know, oh, I'm glad this match wasn't the main event, like early on in the match.
right.
And it was a slow build match.
Yeah.
And
Right.
by the time that match was over, I probably halfway point, I got invested in it completely. Like to the point where we were talking earlier. If it would have won on the main event, I would have been happy with that match as the main event.
Right.
But I'm glad where it was. It fell where it was for me. And I was happy with the last two. The last two matches really saved the night for me overall.
Yeah, that was definitely the first act. I might leave it intermission. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't really getting me. But by the time the play ends, I'm glad I stuck around because
Right.
acts 2 and 3 were absolutely phenomenal. And that's literally how that match was last night. It was the slow burn. And we don't see that a lot nowadays. So that could have been why I said that when I said
Rare
it.
in a women's match too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when are we going to get to the shits? Like, let's go pick this up. I want to see Yins 2 have a classic. And I felt like early on it wasn't getting to that point, but by the time it was over, it was like, yeah, all right, dub this. You can put your stamp on it because they absolutely shined through and came through.
Yeah.
To me, I think the issue was not that the first half was terrible. It was the filler we complained about. Because we all just picked all different matches on the card that lived up to the hype.
Right.
So let's touch on the filler.
It's the filler, yeah.
We talk about storytelling though, you know, and in the match there was storytelling for it, and I think that was just it, at least for me. But
So
good.
Donald, thanks to Professor Porter down there and below me. He came through this morning because we were keeping an eye on this just based off of how much filler there was last night with commercials, video packages, the whole 9 yards. So last night, total wrestling time, so actual wrestling bell to bell, was 1 hour, 57 minutes, and 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we had a 4-hour show, and there was just under 2 hours of actual wrestling.
Right.
So I said this morning, well, go back to just the last couple WrestleManias since it's been a 2-night affair, and see what you can find as far as bell to bell actual wrestling time. And out of all those WrestleManias, this one had the second most. They've all been around an hour 40 to an hour 50 in total wrestling time. I don't know if it's because it's the corporation side of things and you got to get all the sponsors and the spectacle. And to me, if you're running a 2-hour pre-show where you're showing every single video package and bringing down every story for the matches during the night, I don't need to see them again in between every single match. No. I get it. You need time for the performers to walk up the 7-mile-long ramp to get to the back before you can start the next show. But there got to be a better way to come up with that to where it's not affecting the flow. Like the Royal Rumble, they got eliminated, and instead of walking all the way back down, they went out the other side by the timekeeper's table and left that way, which was great because it kept the flow moving. Stuff happened one after the other. You weren't waiting around for everybody to get to the back before you started the next match. Is 2 hours of a 4-hour show enough wrestling for you? Like, do you feel that you got your appetite's worth of wrestling last night, knowing that it was under 2 hours of actual wrestling?
Watching it with you guys? No. Watching it back? Skipping everything? Yeah.
I'm getting, as Jason said, you guys didn't make it entertaining for him, so he has to rewatch it again.
He was asleep for most
No,
of it.
I fell asleep.
He was boring to you, but okay.
No, he was
like he went back and did the Hulu. He went back and did the Hulu version.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to do that. I mean,
so like, and the only reason why I'm bringing this up, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because, and not to drive the tribalism that is AEW stans versus WWE fans, but if AEW puts on a 4-hour pay-per-view and they only have less than 2 hours of wrestling, I feel like people are going to kill them for that.
Right.
WWE does it, and it's not even mentioned. It's not even brought up. It's just, oh, that's WWE
it's
doing
business
what
as
WWE
usual.
does.
You know, the thing about it is that they're so used to it. Yeah. Like when you're used to something, it doesn't bother you until they shake things up. So like early in the week, Nick Khan said that they were actually thinking about changing their format for pay-per-views and doing the, like for the big events, charging $50-$60. And that's when everybody was like, I'm not paying $60 for sit there and watch video packages half the fucking night, and then you guys are going to give me a 5-minute, 10-minute match. Because I know I was just like, I'm not paying for that. I'm going to find a way to watch it for free.
I said last night, especially with how many commercial breaks you had, I think in this, if someone buys the company or whatever the next rights deal is, like say NBC gets the rights. After last night, just put it on NBC. Put WrestleMania on NBC. This way, everybody can watch it, and then you get the money from the commercials, and then it justifies the commercial breaks.
Right. It's like a Super Bowl. It's like the Super Bowl.
It's exactly. Yeah.
You're charging people $3 to $5 million for a 30-second commercial ad, and people are going to pay because you're going to have how many thousands and millions of viewers watching the show. It's primetime television. Exactly. You know you're blocking off from 8 to midnight. Like, I think, and the other reason why I think I noticed it more last night is because there is an alternative. Because there is AEW now. So I'm watching 4 hours of AEW 8 to midnight, and I'm getting, 3.5 hours worth of wrestling. Where
But then
now
again,
I notice it more on a WWE, a big WWE show. Like there's your main big 3 or 4, depending on what you want to consider Survivor Series.
When we first started with the network, everybody always said, they were complaining about some of the events, like, oh, it wasn't all that entertaining. But then everybody started coining the phrase of, well, you got your $9.99 worth.
Yep.
And it's like, that's still kind of the way it was last night. You got your $9.99 worth, if you pay for Peacock.
Exactly.
And that was a problem that I had too, was Michael Cole at one point, I think it was for the Trish Stratus match. He goes, all right, if you're a Peacock premium subscriber, you're going to see the video and then everybody else got commercials. Like, what are we doing that for? Like just eliminating part of the show, and we got more commercials out of it than what some people saw.
Exactly.
It did, like when the main event came on, they had that little concert going on.
Yeah.
I think that was part of Uso's entrance.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
It didn't need to be.
It didn't need to be, but
You showed the video package. Hit the Usos music right now. I don't care if it was a verse and a hook. Get the hell out of there.
you got
Well,
little
don't-
teasers.
I mean, it's coming up on midnight. Like,
Exactly.
let's get the match going.
I had to go to work, so I waited until they got did the entrances, and I was like, why are they showing little Uzi Vert or whatever? Is that his name, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, I was like, this made no sense. And then there was 2 things that didn't make sense to me that it would make sense for next year. He's one of them. Oh, Philadelphia native. Why is he on this show?
And I saw somebody else tweet that out, and I just simply reply back, Meek Mill.
He's hot on TikTok right now.
Now, then I said,
I didn't know who dude was.
Kevin Hart do the cold open. Another Philadelphia native. Why are you here?
You getting the Rock tomorrow?
And to that, I said Bill Burr.
No, you're not getting Bill Burr.
Philly guy.
Now when Philly comes around, I guarantee when Philly comes around, they're gonna have Kevin Hart host WrestleMania. They're gonna use him again.
We see what they do with the host. It's not that important of a job.
Yeah.
So
I can't the cold open before actually getting to the Miz and Snoop with Kevin Hart.
It didn't bother me.
I can't. Kevin Hart is not a serious guy. I'm never going to look at Kevin Hart and go, "You're serious." So to him to go through that monologue, and it didn't hit the way that I needed it to hit.
Right.
You want Ving Rhames
because it was the person delivering it. Like,
yeah, like Mark Wahlberg did a way better job last year.
Morgan Freeman.
You know what I mean? I'm like, shit. Like, it would have been so much better if somebody else would have did it besides Kevin Hart.
Was it the entirety of the show from start to finish? Does it deserve to be given the accolades that it was last night when everybody just immediately crowned it as the best WrestleMania or one of the best WrestleManias of all time?
No.
Well, we got part 2 tonight.
Yeah, see, I didn't say it was the best WrestleMania I've seen, but I did say, and this one gave me a comment on it when I was like, it was an amazing show.
The story's not finished. The story's not finished.
It was the 8-man tag match was the spot fest, the excitement, right? But it was very top heavy. So if you had Dom, Ray, Rhea, Charlotte in the main event, if one of those 3 matches, maybe not Dom and Ray as much from the other guys that are on this show, but if you had one of those 3 matches be a letdown, this show is being viewed completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But because they all delivered, then it's like, oh my God, instant classic.
Right.
And it was very top heavy. You got LeBron and Kyrie out there, and if one of those two have a bad shooting night, then you're done. You're not going to win.
Sorry, Kel.
Again, I can't say it's the best WrestleMania because the second half is tonight.
Right.
It's just like a sports game. Hey, the first half you could look all great and everything, second half you could drop the ball and the whole week be terrible.
We've
But are they?
seen it in NCAA basketball, so we already.
But are they
We've seen that
billing
in
it?
normal WrestleManias too. Like whenever it was one night, like on a traditional WrestleMania, you know, there's times where half the cards, and then the other half builds back up and it makes it a better card.
I think it was like 2 WrestleManias ago, like when they started to do the 2 nights, they had Roman. I think they had Roman Brock close night 1 for the title, right? It was something like that, and I know everyone said, "Well, night 1 was better than night 2." So I think that's why they started switching things around now, where like the more bigger stars or bigger storylines are just going to close out night 2.
I feel like they're almost, because this is what, year 3 or 4 of the 2-night
Yeah,
WrestleMania, right?
This was the 4th. Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
The
fourth year.
4th one.
yeah. But
I feel like now, and I'll be interested if they do keep the 2 nights to just keep an eye on this to see if it plays out this way. But it's almost now where like, yes, it's WrestleMania weekend, and yes, it's a 2-night affair, but these are like 2 separate shows under the WrestleMania umbrella.
right.
Is the vibe that I'm getting from how they're laying this stuff out. That, you know, it's not going to be just, oh, WrestleMania 39. It's like WrestleMania 39A and 39B. Which show did you like better?
That's why they say night 1 and night 2, or
Yep.
WrestleMania Saturday and WrestleMania Sunday. You know, like they phrased it different ways. I'm interested last night because when they first announced Philly for next year, I think it was supposed to be for this April 6th and 7th.
Yes.
And then last night they just said April 2024. So I'm kind of interested to seeing if they're changing dates or if they're just going to do one night again. I mean, to be determined, but
Hey, look, after the weather we had in Pennsylvania yesterday, April outdoor show in the stadium may not be the best choice.
Yeah, we were talking about that going home. Like, could you imagine this?
Like, get the hoodies out.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny, you went to 35, didn't you? In New York?
Yep.
So it's like,
yeah,
the weather wasn't bad for that.
Yeah, no,
like we lucked out.
Yeah, the weather was all right until, like, I brought a jacket just to be on the safe side, and I took off the jacket like the beginning of the show, and then I think like close to the middle of the show, I put it back on because once it hit midnight,
it was pouring rain.
It was started drizzling. It started getting really cold, and I was like, "Yeah, they need to hurry this up." Like, as soon as Becky put her hands up and she put both titles in the air, me and like my 2 friends, we darted out of there, and I was like, "All right, I'm out. Grab your chairs. Let's get the fuck out of here."
We were pretty much the same way.
Anything else from night 1 that you guys want to touch on as far as reaction goes?
Teardrop Dom.
You know what?
Best entrance.
That was the best entrance that they had for the night. And I gotta agree with Jason on this one because I thought that it was gonna be reversed. I thought that Dom was gonna come with the Eddie Lowrider.
I said it on the show yesterday. I said it in the studio show yesterday.
But what's crazy about it is that if you watch, because I was on social media a lot yesterday, just like posting stuff, and then I saw that I kept saying, I was like, yeah, he's gonna come out in the lowrider. He's gonna do something Eddie like esque type entrance, and then you saw Fluffy and John Cena together backstage, and I saw the corrections van, and I said, this dude is coming out on a fucking corrections van. Fuck me. So, and sure enough, when
Spoiler alert,
he was in jail, I said, he's coming out in the freaking van.
He should have fought with the mask on for the first half of the match.
Yeah.
He should have.
I was like, why did he take the mask off?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it as much rewatching it.
Uh-huh.
But I'm like, initially laughing, I'm like, they got it wrong. He's been out of jail for months. What do you mean he's showing up now in a police van? Like, that makes no sense.
You can't shake your past. You do.
He's like, yo, let me do a quick B&E before Mania so I can get locked up and then get a ride to the stadium.
What do they always say about the workplace? You could do 1,000 things right, but they're always going to remind you of the bad, even if you
one
did
thing you did wrong. Yep.
Them.
All right. Well, night one was definitely a success. We'll see how night two plays out in that, and see how it unfolds. You know, another 4-hour show. It's gonna be hard getting up to work tomorrow for that early birds 9 to 5 special. Or
You're getting 2 for me at max.
So last night ended up being 8 matches. 7 were scheduled, 8 end up happening.
Yeah.
So right now for tonight we got 6. So we'll see if anything gets added again, or if it'll just be that 6. And
Yeah.
I think you'll get an LA Knight Bobby Lashley edition tonight.
Yeah.
In some form or fashion to make it 7. But all right. That's enough for night one of the main roster. Let's go down to NXT. Stand and deliver. Did it actually stand and deliver?
Yes. It made me actually want to go. What's they announced the next pay-per-view?
In May.
Battleground.
It's
Battleground.
supposed to be in Boston. And it made me think, should I take the bus to Boston to go watch this pay-per-view?
How long is that a trip for you?
3 hours.
Okay.
It's not bad.
Not terrible.
Not bad
Yeah.
little bus trip.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think they showed up. Like it's crazy whenever the 2.0 first started and you had the color change and everything else, and they're introducing all these characters and changing names and being cheesy, corny, and
Right.
but to see the growth of those people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like a Carmella, like a Grayson Waller, you know, even some of the women, like just to see the growth from that first show till now, you know, Tony D'Angelo, like all those people before where it was like, yo, you're coming out with a Sopranos type gimmick, like the fake Italian guy, like what are we doing here? And then I'm like, yesterday on the show, like, the Gabagool, we're gonna crown you tag team champions. Let's go. Like, but no, I think that was Chase U. Like, I think that was my biggest takeaway from the show yesterday was, okay, from day one till now, the growth has been great to where I cared, I was invested, the matches were good, and I walked away a happy consumer. So in my eyes, it hit every single check mark that it possibly could.
Yeah, I became like yesterday I became a really like Tiffany Stratton fan. Like I thought she pulled off a really great performance from the promo packaging that she did on Rodeo all the way to her like entrance in the ring and what she did out, you know, throughout the match. I was just like, she had me thinking she was gonna win. I said she's gonna win this. She's gonna win this title. Like, and then boom, she ended up losing, and like Indy Hartwell finally got her victory. I thought she was gonna get called up to the main roster this week.
Yeah, since you went right into that match, we'll just kick it off there from a reaction standpoint. Did Indy's win seem cheated based on what they've done with her recently? Because I feel like she's done nothing but lose and hasn't been a focal point, hasn't been put in the best of light on a weekly show basis, and then she comes out and wins a ladder match for the title yesterday.
Like Kenny said, I thought she was going to be promoted at some point.
Gonna get that. That's how I thought. Like I was just like, it's either Roxanne Perez was gonna retain the title, or Tiffany Stratton was gonna win. And then they just pulled the swerve and hit us with the Indy Hartwell. So she's gonna stay on NXT for a while. Which, I mean, I would love to see her on the main roster, you know, with Damage Control. But the way Damage Control is now, like, I don't really think she wouldn't fit in.
Do you bring the group back together since, you know, they all celebrated after Gargano's win last night?
No.
I
think that was just a one-off.
I felt like
WrestleMania weekend. They're all there at the same time.
Yeah. Like, I honestly, more than anything, I felt like that group should be back in NXT last night.
Right.
Instead of promoting anybody, keep them in NXT.
Yeah, but it is, you know, is it they gave you that old feeling. So, you know, like you see that old girlfriend and you're like, man, maybe, you know, I don't know what happened to us. You start talking, and you find out she's annoying again. You're like, now. Like,
I think this show yesterday was made me feel the closest to a black and gold takeover.
Yeah.
Out of any special that they've put on or quote unquote PC pay-per-view that they've done. Yesterday's was
in that arena field too.
And I think that does contribute to it, but just from like a quality standpoint, I felt yesterday's show was the closest to a true takeover feeling that I've had since they switched the brands.
Because one of the things I really like now that they're back on the road again, at least for these events, is that I'm not feeling like claustrophobic whenever like those fans are like right up against the ring down at the PC.
Right.
It's like everything has a little bit more breathing room whenever they're on the road. That's one of the things I enjoy the most on the show.
Yeah. Any issues with any of the wins yesterday from Stand and Deliver?
No.
I thought everybody that was, I mean, except for the women's match, I thought everybody else that won like deserved it, like storyline wise, like the way if you watch like NXT on a regular basis, like it played into what needed to be done to continue letting them evolve as talent.
I think the women's title match was the only one that really surprised me of Indy winning. Everybody else, you know, either expected to win or, you know, I was happy with the change.
Right.
Is Braun Breaker's potential hampered by the situation that happened with his dad this weekend?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
They never mentioned his name because you could tell from like if you go on Twitter, right? Everybody was very vocal about, you know, the situation that happened at WrestleCon with his dad. And I have not seen one comment yet where they mentioned him specifically, like, oh, is this what you teach your son? Does your son act this way? You know, like that. Like it's pretty much like all on him type of thing. So I don't think this will hurt him, but they will probably WWE might monitor it and be like, we can't talk about your dad in any type of promos at all.
No, you're not wearing the same color singlets no more. Like you're not doing you're not barking. You're not like, we're cutting all that off. I did see some memes going around saying, oh, this is what happens when the real goes wrong. And it was his dad saying that and then Braun losing the title as a shot. But it's just curious because of the temperature in the water and how big of an issue it is outside of wrestling and in the real world, whether or not that would be something that they would, you know, not necessarily cut him off altogether, but I mean, Mandy Rose got the axe for fan times.
Right.
If we're keeping it a buck, you know, different situations, obviously, but at the same time, like, I'm maybe a little bit worried that he might catch the backlash from it.
Right.
Isn't it good to be named Braun Breaker right now?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is that they just announced an action figure for his father.
Yeah.
At the Mattel reveals over the weekend, and that's done because it was only a render. It wasn't a prototype model, so they could just easily put it on hold. That's definitely going to be put on hold now.
Well, and I said last night, oh, all these years people thought it was Scott Steiner keeping him out of the WWE Hall of Fame, and turned out it wasn't Big Papa Pump. Just man, like I don't know. But hey, everybody cut ties immediately. Every single appearance that he was supposed to have got the axe. Statements were issued from multiple entities and everything else. So everybody, you know, stood behind Giselle in that instance, and it is what it is. But it's not something that I was expecting to have to hear about during WrestleMania weekend.
Very true.
Yeah, I was surprised about that.
Where do you think if Braun does get called up, and we got the era of him, as Mello is calling it, which I think is a tremendous tagline. Where do you think he goes? Who's his first challenger? Who would you like to see him mix it up with? Does he stay with Trick? Does he continue to ride this fence of heel babyface? I know it's kind of hard to boo Mello, but at the same time, he was, majority of the time there was a heel from an in-ring standpoint. But where do you think he goes, and who's likely to step up and be his first challenger?
For me, I think it's him and Waller.
Yeah, but that's not first though, right?
First,
I think that's down the line. I think that's down the line. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, does the first matter then? It'll probably be Apollo Crews.
I mean, do you still remember your first? You still remember your first though, right?
I do, but if it's a throwaway,
yeah. So the first matters. Of course, the first matters. Everybody remembers their first. You don't forget that.
Do they run it back?
Up against Wesley?
No, I didn't want to see a run back. No.
Wes. See, I'm thinking.
Wes still won the title. I don't need that.
Yeah, no, but I like, for some reason, I don't know why. Like, and I don't even know if the pairing or the matchup makes sense. Like, I just want to see him and Ilya get in there, and I have no idea why. But that was like immediately my first thought was Gimby Dragunov and Mello.
Right.
I can see that after JD. If you're just going to throw somebody up against him, probably Dijak.
No.
Yeah.
You giving Dijak the Lance Archer AEW treatment? Just throw the big guy out there for no reason?
Mm-hmm.
I say the first don't matter, and he says, give me Dijak.
Donald must really
You don't
hate his
remember that first.
Yeah, Donald must really hate his first.
Depends on how they push it. Are we gonna postpone the first real match until Battleground, or are we just gonna get a title match on NXT at some point?
I don't think you get a title match on NXT. I would save it for Battleground. It's just curious as to who they're gonna put in that spot to be his first match at Battleground.
I mean, there's so many people that's on the main roster. They used to be part of NXT. That goes back to NXT, but you can give them somebody who's never been to NXT at all, and that's Dominic Mysterio. He already had the feud with his dad. What is there left for him to do on the main roster?
Bad Bunny.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yep. Puerto Rico main event.
Puerto Rico next month, man.
Gonna happen. Book it now.
I hope
did it yesterday.
Celebrity
Bad
Deathmatch.
Bunny and Dom. Dom be in Puerto Rico causing havoc. You think he running the streets here? You get him in Puerto Rico. Dom
on the island.
This Rhea won her match. She's a SmackDown Women's Champion. She doesn't need to be a part of Dominic anymore. I think, Finn will win tonight in Hell in a Cell. Send Dominic and Damian down to P. Let Dominic try to find himself and be reformed.
That'd be interesting.
And like I said yesterday, man.
NXT's the halfway house. You got NXT being the halfway house for Dom.
Like, listen, you were acting reckless on the main roster, and we got to put you down, bro. Like, we got to.
He gonna have Booker T as his parole officer.
Yeah. You know what? That sounds really good, because now you have Booker T back there. I was like, listen, you can't pull these things that you pull on the main roster. We're gonna be watching you. You got Triple H, Shawn Michaels over there, giving them hell and stuff like that. And, like, that works.
Dom's going to be focused on Cody or Roman, whoever wins.
You know what?
Stop
If
Triple H is super high on him. I told you the push is the top hill is coming. It's coming.
I would never watch wrestling again.
Thank you.
It's coming.
I'll something else.
I do think Waller is the ultimate
Yeah.
the ultimate antagonist to this title run for Melo. And eventually, he would be the next guy to supplant Melo. Unless his stock is so high that they just bypass that phase and bring him up.
It's possible.
I thought he showed up and showed out yesterday.
Yeah.
I hated the initial character for him.
Same here.
I thought they stole his gimmick and gave it to Austin Theory initially on the main roster with the selfie and everything else and going viral and all that other stuff. But this side of Waller and what he did in this short feud that he had with Gargano, I thought it absolutely, they knocked it out of the park, and he did some of his best work in NXT. That match, I forget which one of us picked it. I don't even know if any of us picked it yesterday. Honestly, trying to think back to our prediction show, but he definitely came up and showed that he can deliver whenever his name's called, so to speak.
Yeah, I said yesterday on the show that I wasn't looking even forward to the match because I'm not a big Waller fan. I'll still say that I'm still not 100% sold on him, but that was my match of the night for NXT. So I thought he did the job. We'll see where he goes. I right now, just watching NXT as inconsistent as I do, he does seem to be the one that they're grooming next. So
NXT for me has been the one show that I've literally watched week in and week out for a while now.
It doesn't draw me every week. That's why I still watch it inconsistent, because it's like, okay, I watch it, I'm good for a couple weeks.
Right.
But I enjoy, and I did that before with NXT too, in between at some point. But I always stuck around and watched the events, the Stand Delivers and the Battlegrounds and all that.
Right.
And I'll still keep following it.
All right. Any other thoughts on NXT Stand and Deliver?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. All right. Let's go back to Friday night. Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor. Man, you want to talk about a hell of an opening match to kick off a show. They pulled no punches.
Yeah. Triple
A. They're like, we're not going to wait. We're just going to give this to you first and let you know what the rest of the night's going to be about. Because I said it before, if you like modern wrestling, that match was absolutely amazing. If you're an old school pro wrestling fan, you hated that match.
Mm-hmm.
But two, it's Lucha Libre. I mean, if you know that style and you like that style, you're going to enjoy it. But if you don't know it, and like you said, you're an old style wrestling fan, it's not going to be for you, because it's very much set up with spots.
Right.
Pause, spot. Spot.
Who opened the show? I missed this show because I had to go to work early.
Vikingo and Commander opened up.
Okay. Oh, that's...
Yeah, they gave that to you match one out the gates. Yeah. It was, here you go. We're not going to wait. We're not going to like slow build this. No, we're going 100 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, and we're getting the night started off right. So that's how it opened. And
they did everything in that match.
Listen, I don't know how this new version of Ring of Honor is going to continue to play out. But based off of what they've done on weekly television so far, in the pay-per-view that they had Friday night, I am fully invested in Ring of Honor. They delivered. You have big names coming in. You got some shock and awe stuff. We saw the return of Nigel McGuinness to a Ring of Honor. Don't know if he's going to be doing commentating full-time, which he came in for the show for. He may switch over to like that general manager type figure role that I said in the prediction show on Friday. But you had him show up. You had just everything about the night was solid from them. I don't think there was a real true letdown on the show itself. And Jason, you called it. You said, I don't know if you were just being a jag off whenever you initially picked it, but You said Claudio and Kingston would deliver, and sure enough, they went out there and delivered. Like, it was one of my favorite matches of the night, and I had no interest of it going into it. And I'm a huge Eddie Kingston fan.
Here they deliver.
I skipped the 6-man and the main event just for time. I didn't have enough time because I finished. I think it was the ladder match was the last match before that, or no, the pure title match. I finished that right before we kind of came on, so I do have to go back and watch those 2 matches. But
Shibata, I was so happy to see him win that match.
Yeah.
His story, everything that he's gone through with, a life-threatening injury to never wrestling again, to being in the ring, to winning a title, just absolutely tremendous. As soon as he won, though, I saw everybody flood the timeline with, give me Shibata Danielson at Forbidden Door 2. Shibata Danielson. That's all I saw at Forbidden Door 2 for the Pure Rules title. I'm like,
if it happens, I'm here for it.
I'm not going to be mad at that at all.
Yeah.
So, Dante Martin's injury was one of the worst I've seen live.
I saw a pro post that he's already out of the hospital, though.
Yeah.
So.
Someone, remember, I didn't watch the show, but somebody sent me the clip and was like, yo, did you see this in slow-mo? And I looked at the clip and I was like, oh my God, what happened? And they had to explain to me like the spot. And I was like, that looks like it just came right off. Like,
yeah. It looked just like Sid.
Yeah, it was like Sid coming off the turnbuckle.
Yeah.
Like it looked like he was like a Lego figure, and they just popped his leg. Like I was like, "Yo, this is
Yeah.
like that kind of like halted the momentum, so to speak." But I did see one thing that and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. Kenny, you may spoiler alert if you haven't watched the show, but I saw people killing the booking of Joe and Mark Briscoe for not having Mark Briscoe win. They said that they played up on Jay's passing and the video packages and having the family there and all this stuff, and to not have Mark win was a disservice to Mark and a disservice to Jay. What are we doing here?
Wrestling story.
So you're basically
I'm like,
I was surprised that Joe won. I think we all called it that Mark was going to win, but
Jason didn't. Jason called.
that's what they wanted you to think. Because now imagine if he would have won, right? Everybody would have been like, well, we kind of figured already. Everybody here probably would have said
they did it because of Jay. They gave him the belt because of Jay.
Sympathy win.
The pass, so we're gonna give him the title. That's just like when Eddie passed, and it was like that was one of the main reasons why Rey Mysterio won the title is because Eddie Guerrero died. Because everything was paying a tribute to Eddie.
And me playing devil's advocate, I was, just randomly tweeting back to random people I saw, just like, hey, did you ever think maybe Mark didn't want to win the belt?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think the original booking was, hey, Mark, this is what we're going to do. This is, we're going to put the title on you. And Mark was like, nah, I'm cool.
Nope.
Like, I don't need it. I don't want it. Like, the man is still grieving the loss of his brother. Like, maybe he doesn't want to carry a championship right now while he's still processing all that stuff.
And it's better if you fight your way back into it.
Yep.
I did feel like he had the line of the weekend, and everybody deals with grief in different ways, and depending on you yourself, it is what it is. But to see like some of the stuff that he has said and talked about since his brother's passing is from somebody that has lost a parent young and everything else, like his outlook on it has been so positive. Somebody asked him in the scrum afterwards something about, I forget what the initial question was, but his line was, I have it way worse than Jay. I just wrestled Samoa Joe. He's up there wrestling Eddie Guerrero. And I just thought like that, like to have that type of outlook on losing somebody as close to you that you did so many amazing things with in your life and not be negative towards it and not, fill it with a bad outlook to say something like that. I was just like, all right, he doesn't need a belt. He's not worried about a belt. Like, it's bigger than wrestling. And I think you saw that in the reaction afterwards whenever him and the Kingdom were out there sharing a group hug. It's things are bigger than wrestling. So, like, let's just take it easy with the criticizing of the booking. Then try to take a step back and look at it as a person still grieving the loss of his brother that's not even, 6 months old yet.
Yeah.
Do you want to see the rosters truly split and keep ROH separate from AEW? Do we need?
Yes.
100%.
How long do you think it'll take for them to get to that way? If they ever do.
I was just about to say, I don't even know if it'll ever happen.
Yeah. It has to take some really good convincing to Tony to make that happen. Like, right now, I think he's just probably stuck on his ways of how he's operating things. Until somebody else will just come in and be like, this is what it could benefit from if we just split it into two different brands.
And I saw the quote from Tony. He gave some interview somewhere where he said his booking of Ring of Honor has directly impacted in his booking of AEW. And that was the quote. And I didn't see the rest of the interview, so I don't know the context with the answer before or after. It has. He said his booking of ROH has directly affected his booking of AEW. And I gotta find it because I need to know what was said before and after and the question that was asked, because it's like,
if he explained it a little bit more.
Yeah, like what ways has it affected you? Like, what are you doing differently in Ring of Honor? Like, I feel like them taping and having their weekly show on streaming and being able to kind of just do what they want, and he can play with the clay as much as possible and do exactly what he wants without worrying about, you got a 6-minute segment here, a 14-minute segment here, we got to cram this in here. Like, I feel like his freedom and his creativity is coming out more in ROH right now. And that's causing him to change how he's looking at things in AEW, which in my eyes can only be a positive because I haven't been completely enamored with AEW recently.
So lately, for me, I think AEW's, for me, it's been on the rise the past month. I feel like the quality's been better. So if that's why, then cool.
No, when I haven't seen any ROH because I don't have to carry. But how do they book the characters that are split on the roster? Do they book them the same as AEW?
So like Claudio,
Claudio and you to take
Claudio for an example, like leading up to this feud with Kingston for the match and how he's been on Dynamite is two different versions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not we're going to attack you and stomp you out, Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio.
Over.
He's still the Ring of Honor. Like, the whole sit down with Kingston was, hey, you're not a champion of honor. I don't see you being the guy to hold this belt because you don't have honor. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to him talking. I'm like, well, wait a second. You're jumping dudes from behind on Wednesday nights. What are you talking about honor for? You got no honor.
I feel like Yuta's been okay, though, because, like, Yuta, I feel like calling out Shibata has been a little bit more aggressive.
Right.
So that plays with what's been going on with AEW.
Are we insulting people's intelligence over here?
That's what it looks like.
Don't even start.
Maybe.
No, I was just saying, like, is that do you think that affects how he's booking stuff? Because, like, it's going to mess with the BCC while you book them on ROH.
But then they've also taped, I think, what were they on right now? Like 5 episodes of Ring of Honor?
Yeah.
So you're talking over a month ago they taped, maybe close to 2 months ago they taped the episodes.
Oh, so that's when this stuff.
Yeah, it was one
they're
weekend.
Not taping. They're doing the Impact version where they're taping.
But your pay-per-views are still
4 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out. Yeah,
and then like the BCC stuff has really just started a couple weeks ago, so maybe that wasn't even in the plans whenever.
Okay.
So we kind of have to see what the fallout is now on this next set of tapings, and does it all fall in line better?
But I am, like I said, I am fully invested. What they've done on TV and then this pay-per-view, I'm sold on Ring of Honor so far. I like the roster. I like the mix. I like the blend. You have your different showcases, and to me, it feels like Ring of Honor of old. It really does. Caprice and Ian are great. Adding Nigel to the mix is a chef's kiss, icing on that Sunday, so to speak. So I like where Ring of Honor is at from a positioning standpoint. And hopefully they can continue to grow and build and develop without being hamstrung.
The pay-per-view last night felt like what you said, Ring of Honor rolled, or on Friday night. It felt like a Ring of Honor show. TV, to me, though, I like the show. I think it'll improve and it'll grow. But it feels like I'm watching AEW Dark most of the time, just the way they've laid it out.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the format of the show yet, but it's new. They're going to evolve it, see what works, what doesn't. So I'm not going to shit on the program at all because I know things will change.
And it's also hard whenever you tape that many shows in advance like that, which was the knock on Impact at times. It's like, how are you still playing this out in this way, given, and then you got to remember, it was taped 2 months ago. Yeah. Like, all right. So that may come to bite them at some point in time, especially with injuries or if people leave the company, so on and so forth. Like, see how they navigate those waters. But
this past week was taped before Dynamite, and that kind of was cool. I like that feel. Like, still similar. Felt like Dark, with the matches, but at least they gave it a different look, different feel. Kind of gave Ring of Honor a bigger atmosphere to play around with.
All right. That's a recap and reaction show from everything that the week that was. What are you looking forward to the most from night 2 WrestleMania tonight? Go around the horn. Donald, what do you got?
There's only one match on the card. Is Cody gonna do it?
Rocking almost.
Almost forgot about that match, Kenny.
Yeah, is Cody gonna do it?
Chris, I see you got the shirt on, so that's where you're going.
Gotta go with Cody.
Jay
and still,
Kenny.
Come on, man. We throwing those ones up in here. Trying to see if I had my We the One shirt, but it's in my drawer. I thought I took it out. So wear that later tonight.
That's it.
There you go. Kenny, real quick, give everybody a shout out. Let everybody know where they can find you at on social media.
So it was on Twitter. It's the Call Up Podcast. Same thing on Instagram. You can find me every single Monday live at 7:30 on the Knuckleheads Network. We do the Raw trivia / watch along. We're gonna add a whole bunch of other stuff on there now going into these 3 hours. So we try to do a lot to try and keep people in there, especially for 3 hours. And then you can also catch me Wednesdays at 2:00. I do a live stream too, where I just recap Monday Night Raw and NXT, do a preview for Dynamite. And then Thursdays, obviously, you see me at 9:00 over again at the Knuckleheads Network for Wrestling with Knuckleheads, talking and arguing with Toe half the time.
We need Toe on one of these shows. I gotta get Toe. I don't know why. Toe to me feels like somebody that's like a long lost brother. I've never actually met him, but once I do, I feel like we'll get along in person great. But I want the confrontation with Toe. I need to have the back and forth with Toe.
Have you seen us argue?
Yes, I have.
Are you ready for us to argue tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm hopping on tomorrow after we get done with our stuff.
We went back and forth earlier, and I had to excuse myself from the group chat. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to answer any more questions. Every message that I seen in the group chat, I ignored it for a reason, because I knew, one, I was tired, and then I was already frustrated, and then two, he's gonna frustrate me even more. Tomorrow it will be a whole new night. we will discuss everything that there is wrestling from the weekend, and most likely, I know for sure we're gonna get into an argument. I feel it. I'm gonna prepare myself.
We'll be in the comments.
We'll be there. Hey, episode 3, Podomania 3, it's coming to an end. Check us out tomorrow. Last show of the week, episode 4, Podomania 3, reactions to night 2 of WrestleMania. Little predictions for Raw to see what we have as far as surprises, debuting stars, returning stars, all that in a bag of chips. And then you catch us over there with your boys from the Call Up and Toe over there for their watch along, chiming in and chopping it up with those fellas for sure later on tomorrow night. So again, thanks for rocking with us. Glad you're with us each and every episode. And I didn't get the tagline yesterday because the production assistant cut off the show, but you're a Mark, I'm a Mark, tell a Mark. And until next time, y'all can catch us around the way.